All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today for this Black Empowerment Works information session. And we plan to share a lot of content with you in this time, but also provide time for you to ask questions of us. The entire Black Empowerment Works team welcomes you. So my name is Janae Bradley. I serve as the director on our community impact team. And with me today is Jeremiah Pennebaker. He'll be presenting a little later. And Anaya Arnold is not in today's session, but we brought her on as a part-time coordinator, and she's an amazing addition to the team already. So in our time together today, we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to provide an overview of Black Empowerment Works. So what is it and why does it exist? Second, we'll discuss the reviewer and grant opportunities and that experience. This will include the opportunity to hear from a couple of folks who have served as reviewers or received a grant in the past. So excited for that portion. We'll highlight the supports available to you throughout the process, including what's available on our website, question sessions, and beyond. And finally, of course, we'll save space for you to ask the questions that you have of us, and we'll provide answers to them. So let's start with, what is Black Empowerment Works? So Black Empowerment Works promotes Black self-determination, social mobility, and economic prosperity by resourcing and funding grassroots or community-based Black-led work. So in essence, it's an equity-focused grant program that specifically wants to invest in the leadership of Black folks to address some of our biggest challenges or opportunities in the community. Black Empowerment Works is a part of United Way's Black-led social change initiative, which seeks to build power and positive outcomes within the Black community. Externally, the goals for Black Empowerment Works are two. So first, we want to advance the well-being of Black people in Greater Cincinnati, which is inclusive of portions of Northern Kentucky and Southeast Indiana. And secondly, we want to invest in promising work and leaders who are often left out of traditional grant processes. So we like to say that in Black Empowerment Works, we invest in work that goes unfunded as well as underfunded. So in our images, you'll see pictures of folks that have received grants, and some of those faces might be familiar, but there are going to be other people whose work you haven't heard of, and that's what we're trying to do here. Invest in work that could use more funding and work that hasn't received any funding to date. So Black Empowerment Works exists because there is an overrepresentation of Black families experiencing poverty in Greater Cincinnati and an underinvestment in community-based Black-led work. And I want to say, in no way are we saying that just by investing in Black work are we going to change the systemic issues around inequities. We know that there's policy and practice work that has to happen, but we also believe that investing in Black leaders and their work is an important portion of that equation. In some stats, you'll see that in Greater Cincinnati, 1 in 3 Black families experiences poverty as compared to 1 in 10 of their white counterparts. At the same time that we're seeing that, and across the country, we see this historic underinvestment in work that's led by people that identify as Black. And we believe that we can change that nationally, and we know that there's a piece that United Way of Greater Cincinnati has to change that in our community. I'm going to pass it over to Jeremiah to give an overview of the process and talk about the grant experience.
Thank you, Janae. So Janae talked a lot about the why of Black Empowerment Works and like why we do the things that we do. I want to talk a little bit about how and how we make these decisions. So each year, Black Empowerment Works invests in a diverse portfolio of different work representing different focus areas, organizational structures, and communities. And what we think separates Black Empowerment Works from other investment type programs is we lean on community members like yourselves to make these investment decisions. As you see right here, Garrison Mays is one of our reviewers from 2021. A friend of mine, local to the Cincinnati community, has lived here most of all of his life. And we brought him into the process to be able to just see the work that is going on in the community. And he was the one who was a vital part of making the decisions and who United Way gave grants out to this past year. So following the submission and review of written applications, reviewers and grant applicants hold conversations with one another to share more and answer any questions that may have come up in the review period. We like this because it gives a chance for the reviewers and the grant applicants to just be one-on-one and actually get more of a feel for what's something that's not on the written part of the applications. Decisions, we are looking to communicate those in late August. I believe the date is August 24th. So yeah, speaking on the dates, some of the things we wanted to highlight to make sure you knew, we recently opened the grant and reviewer applications on Monday, May 2nd. The reviewer applications will close on June 8th. And throughout May, we will have several information sessions and different opportunities to engage with the Black Empowerment Works team, whether they be question sessions, information sessions like this, or community resource sessions, which we'll be holding later in the month as well. June 20th, after we've selected our reviewers, we are going to be training them. The first part of the training will be largely self-paced and self-guided. July 1st is at 5 p.m. is when that grant application closes for folks who are seeking funding. And throughout July, we'll be holding that initial review of those applications. The first week and a half or so of August, we're going to be holding those reviewer grant one-on-one conversations. So they'll be able to, like I said, speak with one another and kind of get something that you aren't always able to communicate through paper. And finally, August 24th, like I mentioned, we're looking to communicate to all grant applicants the decision on their grant. So to talk a little bit about the grant opportunity, how to apply, the eligibility around it, and the different resources and important dates to look out for. Touch on that a little bit. So what exactly are we looking to fund here through Black Empowerment Works? Like I mentioned before, each year we seek to fund a diverse portfolio of ideas, programs representing different focus areas, organizational structures, and communities. How do we kind of parse those out? As you see on the right-hand side of your screen, I'm sorry about that. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see kind of our eligibility layout. So, and if you could just make sure to mute your mic as you're coming in. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, but we will hold a question session later on in the program. So, but Black leadership and labor, we require the majority of the decision makers within a organization are Black or identify as Black. So that would be 60% of the leadership team, folks who make the decision around the organization, and 50% of the board if applicable. So usually through nonprofits. And we also ask that the work intentionally contributes to advancing the well-being of Black people. So not only do we want Black folks making the decisions around the organization, but we want the work that the organization does directly contributes to the Black folks within the community. Grassroots and community-based, we want the work that the organization is doing, the work that we're funding, to be rooted in or owned by the community. We want it to be informed by those most connected to or affected by the issue that's being addressed. We don't want top-down efforts from folks outside of the community. We want this to be something that the community has buy-in through. Community benefit, just to highlight this one, we wanted to address and identify community need, opportunity, or challenge, and that the work contributes to the vitality of the community rather than benefiting any private individual, group, or business. To make that plain, Black Empowerment Works is not a small business grant. We want this money, we want these funds to go directly to making the community, the Black community around Greater Cincinnati better. And finally, actionable. We want the work to be far enough along in development or execution could produce measurable results by September 2023. So make that plain from, we announced the grants at the end of August. The payments would go out in September, and we want to make sure that throughout the grant year, work is being done and that funds is being used to make that goes within the community. But just to kind of open it up a little bit more, this grant opportunity is open to nonprofits, for-profits, social enterprises, community coalitions, and even individuals, as long as you meet these eligibility guides that we laid out here. Applicants can only submit one application per year, requesting amounts between $2,500 and $25,000. So some of our general focus areas, which we had folks in the past apply against, we will fund things from anywhere between family engagement to work support to financial literacy kind of work, from building mental health and behavior, physical mental health with folks, or systems change work that involves mobilizing and movement building. As you can see, we have a wide range of things that we have funded. Like I said before, we try to have a diverse portfolio of the work that does go in to Black Empowerment Works. This list isn't exclusive. If you feel like you have something that maybe isn't on this list but does provide a community benefit, community impact, feel free to apply. And like I said, we'll have resources and availability to come and talk with the Black Empowerment Works team if you just have any questions around that. So geographically, the work must serve folks within the United Way of Greater Cincinnati's 9-county region. So this includes Hamilton, Claremont, and Brown counties in Ohio, Kenton, Boone, and Campbell and Grant counties in Kentucky, and Dearborn and Ohio counties in Indiana. So we do have a wide range of the regions that we would like to hit. So if you fall within one of those, we were asked that this work serves the folks within those 9-county regions. So introducing something new this year, we have partnered with the P&G Feminine Care mission, the P&G Feminine Care's Always Confidence Fund. So in alignment with the Black Empowerment Works focus and P&G Feminine Care's mission to unleash girls and women's confidence, the Always Confidence Fund will invest in work that tackles societal barriers on period stigma and gender inequality, supports confidence building of puberty age people with periods, provides access to period products and education to help people with periods understand their bodies. This came about through, like I said, a partnership with P&G, and they wanted to know what are some of the things that Black girls and women are dealing with, and wanted to have those direct conversations with them. So through a partnership with Black Empowerment Works, we had conversations with over 40 different puberty age girls and people with periods, just to kind of understand some of the things that they were going through. And through those conversations, we were able to put this fund together. So information about the fund, it is all other eligibility requirements that I've spoken on before apply to this fund. We have plenty of information in the grant packet. And if you want more information, feel free to reach out to Black Empowerment Works. This is not an additional application. It is just if you feel that your work applies to some of the things that we're trying to hit with the P&G Feminine Care Always Confidence Fund, you just mark some check boxes on the application if you feel that it matches and aligns with the work that you are doing. I'm talking too fast. So what won't we fund? What are some of the things that we don't fund with Black Empowerment Works? While we aim to make this program as accessible as possible to a variety of different structures and work, we do have some restrictions just based off of the heart of the grant. So general business support, like I mentioned earlier, this is not a small business grant. Applications must demonstrate a community benefit that is aligned to one of our focus areas. We don't fund capital campaigns. So if you are looking to build a building or looking to have you're trying to build a $5 million building, you cannot apply to have $25,000 of your $5 million go into building a property or building a building. Construction costs, whatever. So political campaigns and partisan political work, as a 501c3 organization, United Way is legally not allowed to put funds toward political campaigns or partisan political work. So these are things that aren't eligible under Black Empowerment Works. debt reduction work or work occurring prior to the grant period. We're not looking to pay back any debts that happened in like 2020 or 2021. We are looking to fund work that will make an impact in the community between September 2022 and September 2023. Like I said, in that actionable grant period. And currently funded United Way agency partners through the call for system change partners. So like Janae mentioned earlier, there is a lack of investment in major funding programs, lack of investment in Black-led ideas and major funding programs. So keeping with that theme, we want to make sure that folks who are traditionally left out of the grant process have access to this program. So what are some qualities of a strong application? And we try, like I said, we try to make this accessible and simple. The biggest things that we look for when we are having strong applications are just clarity. So being able to explain what the work is and what your organization does in a very clear and concise way that translate through both paper and through conversation with the reviewers. Measurability, being able to show how your work has impacted folks within that actionable time period. Like I mentioned, being able to show like through numbers, whatever, just making sure that you can show and measure that impact that your work is doing. Budget and timeline strength. So like I said, we have in the grant year, being able to show what the funds will go to and how you plan to use the funds throughout the grant year. So being strong and clear around that. Capacity with support. So we want to ensure at Black Empowerment Works that if we are to provide you with this grant funds, you will be able to provide and move through that work if you have the support around you. So essentially saying, as long as you have the infrastructure and things set up correctly already, when we're able to provide you this funding, you'll be able to go and act out that work throughout the grant year. Alignment, like I mentioned a couple of times before, just making sure that it aligns with the mission and vision and the focus areas of Black Empowerment Works.
So I'll add to this really quick. We recognize that idea leaders are in different phases of their journey. And so while this may seem like a lot, we mean these eligibility requirements of these qualities at a very basic level, right? Clarity is around, can the reviewers understand what you're trying to do, right? Is there a clear path of what the work is? Measurability, we give the space for you to define what success looks like and how you measure it. If on the back end, if you're funded and you want additional support to like firm up the measurement piece, that's okay. Budget and timeline strength. For the budget, we include a sample template that you can use, but you don't have to. But we're basically looking to see, can you account for, do you have the ability to say, with these funds, we would use it to do X? And it doesn't have to get as detailed as, we'll use $5 in stamps and $10 in this, but enough to say, we'll use $4,000 to support the payment of our program director, and we'll use this amount of dollars to do something else, and what your proposed timeline is. So if you're saying, I want to carry out this particular work, how are you going to do that throughout the course of a year? What I do want to emphasize, though, is we recognize that the world and life happens. So we're really flexible on our end and we're not going to say, well, you said you were going to support 75 people by June of 2023. We're going to work alongside you to say what's happening in the environment and the ecosystem that may impact your ability to do that. How can we be of support to you? And are there spaces where we may need to make some adjustments? But that isn't to say that you come in with like this really grand plan that there's no capability of carrying it out and just hoping that we don't recognize that, right? You're going in with what you expect to happen, and we give space for life to happen at the same time. capacity with support is a piece that we always want to emphasize, because we recognize that there exists this capacity trap of saying, or funders may have the tendency to say, we want to see that you have the capacity to carry out this work before we provide you funding. And you may say, or a grant applicant may say, well, I can't have the capacity to carry out the work until I have funding. So this is really to say, with the funds that we're providing and any other resources that you have available to you, you believe that you can carry out this work and you can demonstrate that. And then ditto to what Jeremiah said on the alignment piece, is it in the Black Empowerment Works focus space? Thank you, Jeremiah. Back to you.
No problem. So thank you, Janae, for providing a few examples. One thing that I did want to make sure that we talked about this year is putting our work up front to show like what are some strong examples of what's eligible funding and what isn't. So just to go through a couple scenarios. This first one, a applicant submits, I have a great idea for a restaurant. This funding will help me to get this work off the ground. With this funding, we will start construction and start hiring folks within 2 to 3 years. So this isn't eligible for funding. And just to explain a little bit why, Black Empowerment Works, while we do fund new work and we're looking for innovation within our community always, we will not fund capital projects, capital campaigns. This person is talking about breaking ground and building a new restaurant. We don't fund projects that cannot produce measurable results within the grant window. So like I said, we're looking for work that will produce results between September 2022 and September 2023. And additionally, this is general business funding. This does not have the community impact work that we're looking for. This is just somebody who's looking for a small business grant. So next we have something that's a little bit in the middle. Is this eligible funding? A applicant submits, I'm a part of a political advocacy group within Northern Kentucky. We work with folks on both sides of the bridge around voter access and advocacy. But the funds will go towards paying travel scholarships, paying our staff, and supplies. So this one is a maybe. The only hesitation that we would have with funding something like this is making sure that the work does not contribute to partisan politics or any political campaign. But outside of that, the work shows that it is within our regional footprint of United Way of Greater Cincinnati. So we do work with folks in Northern Kentucky. It does impact the community in terms of working with folks around voter access and advocacy. We do allow for people to pay their staff because we look at this as being able to continue community-based work that is going on in our community. So this one will be a maybe. We just need to check those boxes before we move forward. And finally, so our applicant submits, I run an organization that has been in the community for 33 years, providing recreation, financial education, and mentoring to families whose children attend our community school. The student population is approximately 75% Black and 80% free and reduced lunch. So just off the bat, this looks like a yes for us if this is eligible for funding. We fund both new and existing organizations and that are open to work that is community specific. As they said, this are for families and they provide families mentoring and financial education to those who attend the community school. Work must intentionally support Black folks, though not necessarily at the exclusion of others. So this is intentionally supporting the Black students in the community schools, but it is not just for the Black students. It doesn't have to be exclusive to the Black students. So beyond providing access to funding, we do seek to build capacity, networks, and resources of and for Black change makers. So what this means is Janae and I don't want to just be handing out checks to different Black nonprofits and organizations around Cincinnati. We want to help to build their capacity as organizations and as folks who do this work in the community around the greater Cincinnati area, connect them with different folks around the greater Cincinnati area, leverage United Way's different networks and resources to help them to build their own capacity and to connect them with one another. A lot of the work that I'm happy to say that we did this year was just be able to, through small fellowships, connect a lot of different Black leaders and Black change makers to one another to the point where they are now connecting and able to build upon each other's resources. and collaborate on different programs and projects. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about that. Is there anything you wanted to add on that one, Janae? Oh, cool. I will keep it pushing. Just wanted to make sure I hit that one. So down to the nitty gritty of how do you actually put pen to paper, and well, not pen to paper, but actually get down and apply for this funding. So you will find all the information, a lot of information that we talked about today, and all the information to apply on our website. So that is UWGC.org/BEW apply. We ask that you do, suggest that you do review the grant information packet before you start the application, just so you make sure you have all your ducks in order. I just wanted to, let me make sure this works, but just show you what our website will look like if this link will work. The link was working yesterday. Sorry about that, people. But we do have a website, and we want to we try to put traffic there just so folks will be able to see the work that other folks are doing and understand all the eligibility that goes into the Black Empowerment Works program.
And the emphasize on the grant information packet. In that packet, you'll find all of the eligibility requirements, all of those priority areas for the Always Confidence Fund. In the back of that, you'll find all of the questions that we'll ask, both in the eligibility form and in the application itself, and how to navigate the online system. So we very, very, very strongly encourage you to visit that resource, and Jeremiah will show us how to get there.
Yes, sorry about my link not working, but this is our Black Empowerment Works website. This is where we host the application to fill out the grant application and the reviewer application. But like I mentioned, it is uwgc.org/BW apply, but you'll be able to find all the information you need. You'll see these smiling Black faces. I do suggest that you check out our Champions of Change letter. These were the folks that originally founded the Black Empowerment Works program. It was 13 different community leaders back in 2019 that came together and wanted to find ways to get funding in the hands of Black change makers. But like I said, you'll find all information, whether you want to apply as a grantee or a reviewer, has everything here. I do want to show you what the grant information packet will look like. To emphasize what Janae already said, but this has all the information you will need if you are interested in the grant. It has the application questions. It has the eligibility requirements, qualities of a strong application. It even walks you through how to move through the EC impact system, which you would use to apply for Black Empowerment Works grants. And just to give you a preview of what EC Impact looked like. So you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the grant portion where you find how do I apply for a grant, has another link to the information packet if you need it. But you should hit the big yellow box that says apply now. Your first step would be to go to create a new EC Impact account. And the registration, you'll need to fill out a registration form and a pre-application eligibility form. You hit next here. So the first thing you would do is you would see this registration form, and the only things you need to fill out are the parts that have stars on next to them. So this part you can just move through fairly quickly. If you are a nonprofit, make sure you enter your EIN number. If you're not a nonprofit, don't have to worry about putting anything there. But fill out this information. Once you hit, one thing I wanted to highlight, fill out and create a username and password. Make the username your email address just to avoid any confusion. Make the username your email address. But once you fill out this registration form, you will immediately go to the pre-application eligibility form. It is about 10 to 15 questions, just to kind of for us to get an understanding what your program is, whether when you fill that out, Janae or I or somebody on the Black Empowerment Works team will look over the application, make sure that it is eligible and it falls within the criteria that I've already talked about, and you should get a notification from us. Yes, you should get a notification from us to let you know that you have been approved to apply and complete the full application. Make sure you submit the application by July 1st at 5 p.m. That is our cutoff date. but the application does include a agency registration and a program registration. So make sure you hit both of those and then you click submit on the application. We'll usually send out a reminder closer to the deadline to say, hey, like you're close to filling out this application or you haven't started yet, make sure that you fill out this information. But we'll send out those reminders, but it is on you to make sure to get submitted before July 1st at 5 p.m. And once you do that, the next thing you'll have to do is look out for communication to schedule a conversation with the reviewers. And that should come out shortly after you submit and once we have assigned the review teams and such. But those conversations will be held the first week and a half of August. I think I hit everything. So
can you pull up the website again really quick?
Can do.
Yeah.
So
yes. What I want to just keep emphasizing that the website has a lot of resources that are going to be beneficial to not only folks that are interested in serving as or filling out the grant application, but also folks who want to serve as a reviewer. So the first portion of the website tells you, if you scroll up a little bit, Jeremiah, the first portion of the website will tell you, right above the reviewer section. Will tell you all about that opportunity for being a grantee. On the website, we also include this at a glance timeline, so how we make decisions and when we're going to make them. Further down, if you scroll, it'll show us the information for reviewers and how to apply. And I'll mention this a little bit later, but at the bottom of the page, it gives you some information on ways to continue to stay engaged with us. So the recording for this session will show up on this website towards the bottom of the page, and then you have the ability to attend other sessions that we're hosting and reach out for more information. So we're going to pivot a bit to talk about the reviewer opportunity, because I think it is a really exciting part of this process. So I'll step through what the qualifications are, what that timeline looks like on the reviewer side, and how to apply. So what is a reviewer actually doing? In the process, the reviewers are empowered to make the decisions of this grant rather than the United Way team making the decisions. The way that works is that they will work in small teams of 3 to 5, reading a subset of the application submitted. By reading those written applications and hosting those conversations with grant applicants, they'll create their funding recommendations for their pool. We'll then work to create a full list of funding scenarios across all of those review teams and make those decisions. So to use last year as an example, last year we received approximately 120 applications. So we had 12 review teams of about 3 to 5 folks, and those 12 review teams read 10 applications and held conversations with up to all of their grant applicants. Some folks didn't schedule, so those conversations didn't happen, but everyone is given the opportunity. They then worked to identify which applications in their pool they felt were really strong or that they wanted to fund. Our United Way team, plus a couple of other folks, looked across all of those assessments to create some scenarios, and then the reviewers selected from those scenarios. This year, we're going to be engaging reviewers more in that scenario creation process. What qualities make a good reviewer? I'm going to start on the right-hand side of this page to say that we're looking for folks that are active listeners, empathetic, and relatable. Jeremiah and I will always emphasize that this grant fund is looking to be more flexible and to meet people where they are. So we need reviewers that reflect that realization in that journey as well. People that can listen and that can see between the written words to the core essence of the idea. We want folks who are active in their communities, however they define them, and preferably in support of Black people. We want people that are passionate about and or connected to our overall mission of Black empowerment works and Black-led social change, of advancing the well-being of Black people, And finally, people who are able to fully commit to participating in that process, including trainings, reviewing those written applications, meetings, hosting the conversations. So the bulk of that responsibility happens between June 20th and August 24th. Overall, we're looking to bring together a diverse panel of reviewers. We'll bring in about 30 to 40 people, depending on the number of applications we receive. And we want to have representation across age, gender, geography, experiences, and perspectives. Just as we know that no culture, and including Blackness, is not a monolith, we don't want to have a panel of folks that are all very similar to each other, right? So we're going to look to use the application for the reviewer to identify folks from different geographic communities, different ages, people that have passions in different areas. You'll notice that we also include race and ethnicity as an area of diversity. What I will say on that is that Black empowerment works to serve as a reviewer. You do not have to identify as Black, though the vast majority of reviewers will identify as Black. No experience is required prior to being a reviewer, and we provide what I feel is a lot of good training to help you feel equipped for that responsibility and opportunity. Some of the benefits that we see of serving as a reviewer, and these were pulled together in having conversations with folks that have served as reviewers in the past. They include, one, the obvious of learning about Black-led grassroots work happening in our community, especially work that isn't always as visible. Second, connecting with other community members who are passionate about resourcing and funding Black work. I like to say that when we come into this space, we don't have to question people's intentions. Like, we're all working towards that same goal. Third, accessing professional development resources. So in something that we added new last year in the review process is a segment by Meyerson Academy on character strengths and radical candor. So this will give you the ability to understand what your unique character strengths are and how they show up when you engage with others. You'll get to understand the strengths of the other members of your team and how to engage best with them. And then information on how to have collisions and still be able to work together in the end. We've seen reviewers say that this information is not only helpful in the review process, but in other areas of their life. And finally, ongoing opportunities to engage in the Black Empowerment Works work. So we'll stay connected. And if you see natural connections, we'll help to build those bridges. Reviewers will receive a certificate of completion at the end of the term, and we also provide a cute little gift to reviewers for their time. But you're in it for all the other benefits, not the certificate and the gift. So one of our reviewers had this to say about her experience. I've gained invaluable knowledge and skills during the time and was able to learn about so many amazing organizations across the Cincinnati area. This is the experience that we want all of our reviewers to have. We want folks to be able to make those genuine connections to folks and understand the diversity of work happening in our backyards and to be able to celebrate that. And in the end, we'll be able to invest in some of that work and reviewers can feel good that they were a part of that process. So now we'll talk in more detail about the timeline. And we're emphasizing this year. We used to mention, be prepared to spend about 30 hours doing this work, but we want to emphasize what that 28 hours looks like. The good thing is that while this seems like a lot, many of these components are self-paced. So you have the ability to do it in the times that work best for you. We start with that self-guided training. So you're doing this at your own pace between June 20th and July 6th. And that's where you'll learn about what is Black Empowerment Works, how do we evaluate applications, how does bias show up in decision-making, and how will we aim to mitigate bias? And finally, that content on character strengths and radical candor. We'll then have a live reviewer training, which is where you'll get to meet with either virtually or in person, your review team. So those 2 to 4 other folks you'll be working with over the remainder of this program to make decisions. We'll reinforce information from that self-guided training and support you in working together as a team. Applications are reviewed independently. So you'll have between July 13th and the 26th to read through that subset of applications you'll be reviewing and providing a preliminary evaluation. You'll then come together for the first time with your small review team and discuss your preliminary comments, findings, and what questions you have for our applicants. The next phase is that applicant conversation piece. So the ability to have a 45-minute conversation or up to 45 minutes with all of the applicants in the portfolio. And this includes time for the applicant to just share whatever they want to share about their work, for the reviewers to ask questions that they have. And we will send those questions to the grant applicants in advance. The goal is not to surprise anyone in the process, right? It's really to try to understand and invest in great work. And then following those conversations, there's time to meet together as a small team one last time to identify your final funding recommendations as a team. So who do we want to invest in? And then we'll work to make those scenarios. We have one final meeting across all of the reviewers on August 22nd. And then on the grant side, we send out individual letters on the 24th and make the public announcement on the 28th. So we're really looking for people that have the ability to make this commitment to the process. And we know that there's a lot of reward for being a part of this on the back end. There is something that's not captured here is there is an optional reviewer gathering that we're going to be hosting, and we'll share more about those details as folks are selected. So resource requirements and the application. Jeremiah showed us the website, uwgc.org/BEW apply. You'll find also a reviewer information packet in there, just like the grant information packet that explains more about the experience and the requirements, and the link to start the application. Unlike the grant application, the reviewer application is on a platform called Typeform. And Typeform doesn't give you the ability to easily save as you go. So our recommendation is that you download the reviewer information packet. At the back of the packet, you'll see all of the questions that we're going to be asking. You might want to prepare your longer answer questions ahead of time and then copy and paste the information in. There's only about 4 questions that aren't some sort of multiple choice or checkbox, but we want you to be able to prepare your thoughts for those 4 questions. You'll see on here that it says it takes an average of 7 minutes to complete. Requirements for serving as a reviewer beyond meeting those qualities and having the ability to fully participate in the process is that we need folks who have access to a computer with a camera. If you do not have a camera, we can look to provide that resource to you. Strong internet connection is going to be important. All of the applications are going to be reviewed virtually. And as it exists now, all of those small team meetings and the large meeting will happen via Zoom. So having strong internet connection is important. And finally, that ability to participate in virtual meetings. And that's what we have to share about the reviewer experience and expectations.
Sorry about that. But thank you for sharing that, Janae. We're now moving on to the portion. I'm sure y'all tired of hearing Janae and I talk about stuff, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to talk to some people who have actually been through the process. Going to ask them a few questions, and then we're going to take a couple questions if you have any in the audience. Like I said, you can always feel free to put things in the chat, and we'll try to get to those, Janae or myself. But for now, I'm going to stop my share. And I think we have Miss Alex in the building. I thought I seen her name pop up.
We were having some technical difficulties. lighting in here. Hello, everybody. How are you?
What's going on, y'all? Thank you all for agreeing to talk to us a little bit about I guess your experience as both a reviewer and a grantee. I'm gonna start with the grantee question. Oh, I'm sorry, I should introduce people. I'm not good at this. We have Miss Alex Curitin, I hope I said that right, and Miss Ashley Kennemore from High Achievers Aim High. They were our grantees from class of 2020, our class 1 and class 2 grantees, and they served as reviewers last year after they got a grant that was non-competitive in the regular grant process. So happy to have you here. I just have 4 or 5 questions for you all. But yeah, first, and either of you can speak to this, what was your experience like applying to the grant, like going through EC Impact, the conversation that you had with the reviewers, and just any experience you've had with the grant process in general?
It was actually a really, really great process. Really straightforward. United Way did a really good job of giving information and offering help throughout the process, and going through the actual talking with the reviewers, and it didn't seem like an interview, more of a conversation of what goals we were trying to accomplish with this grant. And it was actually like probably one of the best grants we've applied for in terms of the process.
Yeah, it was really hands-on, I think. Like some other grants that we have received before, we didn't really see the people who were interviewing us or who were making the choice. Like there was no interview process.
No interview, yeah.
Yeah, no interview, most of it was just like turning in like a budget or something like that. But this was way more personal, I think, for us, and we appreciated that.
Taking a step back, can you share what High Achievers Aim High does?
Yes, so we are a local nonprofit, and our mission is to combat the achievement gap for children within the greater Cincinnati area. We're now we're into our 5th year, going on our 6th year, and we have a number of youth programs. We have academic enrichment program during the summer break, also spring and winter break. The program we applied for, the Black Empowerment Works grant, was Hustle Academy, and that stands for helping usher students towards leadership and entrepreneurship. We have our shirts on to represent. We also do tutoring, after school care, peer mediation, extreme sports, which is a STEM-based program. And then we're also adding a learning center for infants to preschool kids.
Thank you for that. Like I said, not used to doing the whole interview piece, but next question I have for you around like the grantee experience is one of the things that we try to do in Black Empowerment Works is build out the network and capacity of organizations and just try to provide things more than just handing out a check. How has being a part of the Black Empowerment Works network impacted the work that you all are able to do?
Oh, that's a great question. It's helped grow our network tremendously. Receiving this grant has opened so many other doors for us, not just with the program we applied for the grant, but evolving some of our existing programs, creating new ones. And we were able to, saying we were a recipient of this. This was, like, in all honesty, our first big grant that we received. So having that from United Way, that added to our credentials, it just really opened a lot of opportunities for us.
Being able to say that United Way and the Black Empowerment Works grant is one of our biggest donors, kind of rings bells, if we can be honest, for people. And so it makes other people want to work with us and give us money as well, because it's like, oh, United Way trusts you, and if they help you, then we can do the same. And so it really has helped us tremendously. And we want to say thank you for that.
Yes.
And then also just the networking itself, like all the other organizations that we've met who also applied or they were a part of the process as well. We've been able to team up with some of them and work with them. I know that Forever Kings was one of them. We are actually going to work with them this coming fall for our next cohort of Hustle Academy. And that's separate from the grant and everything, but we're going to, that's who we'll be working with for our next Hustle Academy. And we met them through this whole process. I kind of knew Jordan before, but just like, we were like, okay, I know what you're doing. We know what we're doing. Let's kind of like team up and use your boys. And I have some other people, other organizations who were kind of doing the same thing. So.
Thank you for that. And I guess finally on the grantee part, any advice you have for folks who are in the chat or listen to the reporting about taking on the grant or applying for the grant? Any advice you can give them?
Just, spell everything out, give it your all. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure you're clear on, what's being requested of you. Just utilize the resources.
Yeah, definitely ask questions. I think that's like huge, especially with like having Janae and Jeremiah, like they are very accessible, they're very helpful. And so if if you're not clear on anything or just need help with something else, I think that like reaching out to the team for Black Empowerment's work program is very helpful.
Thank you. And now I just got switching to the reviewer questions. Your experience last year, we brought you on kind of last minute, I know, but you were very helpful in that, just being able to fill some gaps that we had. But what made you want to be a reviewer or like actually say yes when we came and asked?
No, go ahead.
We just wanted to show that a big reason why we did it to show that we appreciated being a part of the grant process and being chosen when it was our turn. And so after we had the relationship established, it was like anything that you all call and ask us for, we don't mind doing it just because of how you were able to like catapult our organization and help with that. And so, that's kind of why we wanted to do it. Just if you ask, we're there.
For sure. And being able to, kind of pass the torch. We were grant recipients, and being able to switch gears and be a reviewer for the next, group of people who were applying and giving that money out, that was really rewarding.
And it was also helpful too, though, to see it was an experience for us to see the other side. Being a nonprofit, a lot of our money does come from grants. And we apply for all kinds of grants everywhere. So that gave us some insight on what it's like, what you're looking for as a reviewer, what the process is like, what conversations are they having. And so that really helped us going forward. Now I'm more mindful, like, oh, I remember I saw this in people's application. I'll make sure I'm not doing that. And so just having some insight on the other side was important.
I was like, you already mentioned it a little bit, but I guess what was your favorite or most rewarding part of doing it last year?
I think for me, getting to have the conversations with the different businesses that were applying, because sometimes when you read something on paper, you don't get the full story. And that's, again, part of what we really enjoyed about this grant. It gives you that chance to interact with who's applying for the grant, get to know them on a more personal level, get their backstory, and not just base your decision on what they wrote on paper.
And we were able to kind of like hear people's stories and what they wanted and then advocate for them. I like that part. Like, it was not easy coming to a decision for who was going to get money and who wasn't. And I really did like that part because there were some groups that were like, oh no, I love their mission and I'm going to fight for them. And like, and I like that part of it, just being able to really advocate for the people who I know are trying to make a change in the community. And then when I saw like some of those groups that I picked, it felt really good.
And I guess last question, is there any advice on the folks on the reviewer side that you would give?
Do it. If you're given the opportunity, definitely do it, because like I said, you get to see the other side. And if you are applying for grants, this will be a great eye opener for you to see what it's like and what the process is like and what people who are reviewing your application are looking for. So I would just say, if they reach out, don't hesitate to say yes.
Absolutely. And you also get to network as a reviewer too. So the other people that you're reviewing with, the businesses that are applying, you meet a lot of new faces and can expand your network that way as well.
Well, thank you both for taking the time, like I said, to come in, talk to us a little bit. Those were the end of my questions. I know we had some questions in the chat. I think Janae got to them, but are there any questions that people just want to come off mic and ask the ladies from High Achievers Aim High, ask myself or Janae, just open it up a little bit.
I have a question. This is Ashley Glass.
Mhm.
So my question, ladies, is for your application, did you all use any like statistics or anything to help kind of prove your case for your application? Or what are some things that you could give us that really helped your application be successful in the process?
I will say the statistics are huge just on the grantee and the reviewer side. Being able to have numbers, that's important. So being able to show exactly the budget. We have people who would apply who didn't even like present a budget, and that was always kind of like, well, what are you using money for? We're really particular with that. Alex does a great job of like spelling out exactly what we're using the money for, exactly when, why, and all of that. So the budget is very important. I think any statistical data that you have to show that your program actually works. So for us being in education, we use like pre and post assessments, and we put those kind of numbers in there to show that we are actually growing our students and that they are actually raising their scores. And I have something else, but I forgot.
I was gonna back what you said, the budget on the reviewer end, that was like one of the biggest pieces that we're missing in a lot of applications. So really try to break down those numbers and make sure they add up and make sense to, whatever project or program they're applying for.
And even if it's not required, because I'm not sure if it was like spelled out or required, like they don't give you a template, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to like show, do they give you a template?
Is that
See,
correct?
Alex knows the budget. I might be
Janae?
talking out of turn. I'm just going from reviewer, like what I saw and what I didn't see in the conversations we had, but is there a
So-
template?
So we do this year, we updated and provided like a more basic template. I think Janae actually just put it in the chat for Ms. Candace, but we do provide a basic budget template. You don't have to use that one if you
Okay.
have your own, but we do encourage you, just like you said, it just helps to make things clearer for the reviewers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last piece of advice I would give, if it's possible, to team up with another organization. I think that I feel like that helped us. We were working with Mortar, and I think, and I've heard this before from other, grantors or donors, that when they see that like you are working with other organizations and you are teaming together, that if your impact will be larger. And so they are usually more apt to give you, and it gives a credibility as well. Again, if you can have like another organization saying that, I'm working with them or I have worked with them in the past. So as much information as you can give to make yourself credible, basically, I think.
And I want to add a little bit of nuance to that last portion of the answer. So the partnerships, I remember, I think I facilitated for the group that read your application, High Achievers, in the first year. And the partnership part of your application helped to spell out that you all had the capacity to carry out the work. So you had, with Hustle Academy, you had a way to get the curriculum and people to support with the training and some other pieces. So it's not to say that you necessarily need to have partnerships. It's helpful, but not a requirement. There's a question in the application that asks, are there other people that you're working with in this work? But by no means is not having a partner in the work going to be something that eliminates you from the process.
Right.
Were there any other? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ophelia Jones, and I have a question. I've been through this process before with Ladies of Leadership, so I'm pretty familiar with the whole process. However, there are some other organizations that I'm working with, and I have a couple of questions around that. My first question is a for-profit business. And I noticed on there that you had quality early childcare. We actually have a family childcare center. And so I'm trying to figure out how we could, it can't be a small business grant. And so I understand that. And it's Black owned. The majority of our clients are Black. So I was been trying to wrap my head around, how does it not look like a small business grant? That's my question. Now, there are some things that we would like to do with our parents. We're in a very transient community, but I don't want to put this idea together. So help me with that. How does it not look like a small business grant? And then after you respond to that, I have another question.
Yeah, I'm happy to give a quick response to that one. So when we say a small business grant, we mean that it can't be a general operating small business grant where you're saying, like, I own a restaurant and I would like to be able to buy supplies for my restaurant or hire a staff member so we can continue operating as a restaurant. Like, that is really sort of outside of the scope of what we're doing with Black Empowerment Works. As you were talking, I think the piece that can set apart an application is like, what is the distinct work that you're trying to do that doesn't like simply generate a profit or some sort of revenue stream for your
That's good. Okay, that's good. So if we're looking at the literacy piece for our toddlers and preschoolers, and then we're looking at training for our parents, those are specific projects. Okay.
And that is eligible.
Okay.
Was there an answer that you wanted to provide High Achievers Aim High team in response to that? I realize I cut y'all off.
No, you handled that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And your second question, Ms. Ophelia?
My second question is around the arts. This is not for me, but there's a friend of mine who has, she does a lot of arts kinds of things. And she's done a lot in a different state. She's here now, but it's all Black arts. It's around drama, singing, and she's teaching young people. And she's got connections in the community where she's gone in and put things on. It is as well for profit. And I know, I mean, I've looked at the application every year, so I'm real familiar. And I don't remember necessarily seeing promoting the arts, and that's what her project would be. How does that fit into Black empowerment and champions of change?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. And I think the work that has worked well in the process before is work that is arts plus, right? What is the impact of this art on the broader community? So we funded a couple of arts-based groups in the past, including, West End Art Gallery. That took me a minute. I was like, what's Tia from West End Art Gallery, where her work is we're building community in the West End through art. We funded Cincinnati Music Accelerator and their work of not only putting on performances in communities that often don't get performances in their neighborhoods, but also their minority business training program. So what's the through line? What's the impact beyond access to arts that would make it eligible for the process? And I do want to respond really quickly aloud to a question that Candace put in the chat. So the question is, if you are a new agency and you are gaining support to carry out capacity of the work, would that hinder your chance of receiving grant funds? And I want to say that we are truly open to work that may be really new or work that's been around for a while. The things that need to be true is that what you're intending to do is very clear and you're far enough along in the process that should we provide grant funds, you're able to act on that work. So if it's like a kernel of an idea and you're like, well, I don't really know how this would work, but I think it'd be great, like that's going to be something that isn't necessarily competitive in the process. But the age of your organization doesn't have a real impact what I want to clarify this too. In the application, it'll ask you to identify your organizational structure. We recommend that you choose the option that best fits where you are right now. So if you are an organization or if you're an individual that's in the process of pursuing a 501c3 in the future, list yourself as an individual. If you are a community coalition right now and you think you may turn into a for-profit business, list yourself as a community coalition. The reason why we ask that question is that it impacts on the back end how we're able to provide funding to you. So a nonprofit organization with that 501c3, we can make a direct grant. For anyone outside of that structure, you know, we'll have the conversation about whether it's a fiscal sponsor or if we're contracting with you, which all has like implications for you on the back end. All of them do. I recommend if you have questions on those legal and financial implications of receiving grant funds, on May 25th at noon, we have a session with representatives from Pro Bono Partnership of Ohio and the Black Lawyers Association of Cincinnati, just to say, what should you legally consider before you take on those grant funds? But I'm going to stop talking now. Any other questions from folks?
I had another question. This is actually, if you have, so let's say you have a for-profit side and a nonprofit side, are you able to apply for funding for both entities, or are you only limited to applying once for, you know, one or the other?
We would, so if you are the person that's leading up both groups, and if they're connected to each other, apply once. That's a messy part. I would say apply once. We don't want to get into the space, especially if we select on the back end of like having to figure out how we communicate funding the same person in two pools. So recommendation in general is apply once for the organization that you feel is the best fit.
Thank
you
you
for asking that question.
Are there any other questions for, like I said, the ladies from High Achievers Aim High, Janae, myself?
Awesome. Well, we have some closeout things to share, some additional information that we want to share with you. And thank you to Alex and Ashley for helping to actually prime the parts that I was going to share. Jeremiah, if you can share your screen. We want to make sure that we're super accessible through this whole process. So a part of the design of Black Empowerment Works, and the Champions of Change went and talked to a lot of Black change makers about their experience in applying for grants. And one of the biggest frustrations was, I feel like I have questions, but I don't feel like I can ask them because maybe the funder is going to think something different of me if I ask. So I'm just going to sit with this question, which we realize is not helpful at all to anyone. So we want to make sure that you know that we want you to reach out to us, and we have a variety of ways for you to do just that. So first is going to be visiting the website, where you can, again, download the information packets, which have all of the questions that we're going to be asking you. You can find the links to apply for the funding and register for one of our upcoming sessions. So you're attending right now one of our information sessions, but as I started to mention, we have a couple of community resource sessions we'll be holding as well. We have the one on the 25th with the legal experts around the legal considerations of accepting grant funds and considerations you might want to make about your organizational structure. We have a session on the 17th with the representatives from IOB to talk about crowdfunding for your work, as well as fiscal sponsorship. And we have a session right now scheduled on June 1st with the Cincinnati Library about how to find and win grants and the resources that they all have available as organizations and individuals. So we'll send out all of that information to you about those upcoming sessions, but if any of those appeal to you, we recommend attending, and we'll have recordings on the website after. There's also a place on the website where you can schedule a question session. Actually, you can schedule an unlimited number of question sessions. And those are concentrated 30-minute blocks that fit your schedule, where you can just talk to one of the three of us on the Black Empowerment Works team. So if you have challenges in navigating the application, you want more clarity on what one of the questions means, you want to talk through your idea with someone, while we certainly can't, tell you this application, if you put this in, is certainly going to, secure a grant. What we can do is provide you questions that you may want to think about as you're formulating your answer. So we are absolutely there for that. If you have a quick question for us, or it's easier for you to write it out, you can also contact us via phone or email. So our phone number is 513-762-7233. It rings to all three of the team members' phones, so we'll try to get to you as quickly as possible. You have the ability to leave a voicemail as well, and someone will respond to you within 24 hours. And I am the person that if you call on the weekend, I will get back to your messages throughout the weekend. And finally, you can send an email to us at black-led@uwgc.org. We don't want you to ever feel lost or confused through the process. So we are here as a resource. And beyond that, even if you aren't selected, if you're applying as a grantee and you're not accepted to receive the funds, we want to be a resource to you. So we want every person that touches this process to get some sort of benefit out of it, that your investment of time meant something. So we are here for that. Reviewers can ask questions, or people applying to be reviewers can ask questions as well. Anything you want to add, Jeremiah, before we close out?
Nothing. I think we hit everything. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Like Janae said, if you have anything, questions, comments, concerns, whatever, we are here. Janae will be answering the phone. No, we'll all be answering the phone. But yeah, no, we're here to help.
Well, feel free to stick around if you have additional questions, but seriously, thank you so much for your time in the middle of the day on a Thursday, and good luck on applying and moving forward. Take care, everyone.